You've just accessed Hardware is Forever, your source for the expert insights, ideas, and innovations you need to do more in the electronics manufacturing industry. From optimization to operations, join us as we put the pieces together for a better approach to manufacturing. Let's go.
This is Hardware is Forever. Jay Patel is the CEO at Amtech, and it's good to see you again, Jay. And I'm excited to have a conversation that you and I were just touching on, really around kind of the value of, I guess, each of us have like an industry, maybe a body of some kind, some sort of an industry standard and association that helps us to, I think, see and shape a vision that shares commonalities with others in our space. And I'm wondering about kind of your perspective on this, your involvement in this, particularly where IPC is concerned, and kind of this value of integrating more into, I don't know, not just being out there on an island, but being part of the conversation wherever we are in our industry, specific to us as with electronics manufacturing and circuitry. But let's talk about that a little bit. Talk to me just a little bit about what is IPC and what is your involvement, and then, I don't know, let's dive into it.
All right, no problem. But before I start, I just want to say your Mr. Rogers game is strong. You have a nice cardigan on right now.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm going to button it up so that we can.
Okay, so kind of going back to your question, I think again, I think I mentioned the folly of youth, the hubris of youth, sophomoric thinking early on, and I always used to think, whatever I need to learn, I could just Wikipedia it. And I was that child born as the internet was evolving. So all this information is available for me. So I don't need to go to these conferences anymore. I don't need to talk to anybody anymore. I could just go online and I can learn what lean manufacturing is from Wikipedia. I can do some other web searches for electronics manufacturing. And, 20 years into that assumption, I was making the same mistakes. And I think there's a quote out there that says, lessons keep on repeating until the lesson is learned. Maybe that's, and I said that a lot, but lessons keep on repeating till the lesson is learned. And I felt like I was repeating these lessons and I thought I learned it, but I didn't. So I think one of our strategic goals last year was to get involved in the industry more. Just because we had never done it before. And, our leadership team got together and decided, okay, what's our industry? If you want to be a great organization, you have to have a level of expertise. Your industry, group or association is the place to get that. So Jay, go out there and learn what the industry is all about. So last year I went to the first event, which is called Apex. So our industry's name is IPC. We went to Apex, and it was kind of like last minute. We had just come out of our quarterly, end of year quarterly meeting and planned to do that. And I think, it came together in a week or two, and I was there in San Diego, and it just kind of opened my eyes up. I enjoyed it. I actually missed. So I went for the trade show where there's equipment manufacturers really presenting and showcasing the latest technologies. That would be our vendors. But, the more that I got engaged and the more that I networked and bumped into people, I met the right people. And, I missed it last year that I went, but then I learned that there's a whole, not really learned, but I paid attention and learned the value of these other days before the trade show that are really invaluable for people who are leaders in businesses like ours. So, went there, met some people, and then afterwards followed up with them and really figured out how to engage ourselves. And initially, again, I had never done it before. I thought I didn't need to do it, but begrudgingly, with the advice of our leadership team, we did it. And it's been a phenomenal experience. And I was able to talk to the right people and get onto the IPC steering committee as a rookie. So I pay for everybody's dinners and I carry everybody's bags. I'm just kidding. That doesn't happen. They're really, the people on the committee are phenomenal. And if they did, asked me to do all that stuff, I would definitely do all those type of things. But like they're phenomenal individuals, experience, wealth of knowledge, approach to business and customers and life in general has been amazing. And I think it's one of those things that you can't really assign a dollar value to it, but I am becoming better, and because I am becoming better, our organization is becoming better because everything, leadership is what drives the organization. So, yeah, being part of that committee has been a phenomenal, eye-opening, humbling, learning experience.
I love how you always come into our conversations with an angle of humility, and it's always fascinating to hear how the trajectory you had in mind is often upended because you went ahead and considered something else. And I think this particular thing is interesting because a lot of us, there's some common perspective or point of view that is, how am I going to be a trendsetter if I'm going to go to a place where everybody's talking about? How am I going to be at the leading edge if I'm going to go surround myself with people and we're all talking about the same things? How am I going to be? I'm too independent. I'm too individual for this. Our organization is too special. We all have this like point of view that is never accurate, where we're the star of our own movies. I think you said that in one of our earlier conversations. And I'm wondering about, because there's an expenditure of energy, and we've talked about that together too, where, you have limited time and energy and resources. And when you dedicate it to something like this, you don't just spend the time, but you're there for the communication aspects, the social aspects. You're exhausted by the end of the day because you've been mentally engaged the whole time. Was it, as you were kind of preparing to sort of step into this, maybe with a hint of skepticism, were you feeling like, I don't know, I'm worn out, and then it was kind of a resurgence, or it was energizing for you? Or did you go completely open-minded and open-hearted, and what you put into it is what you got out? Or just talk to me a little bit about how you showed up.
So initially when I went to the show last year, that's what I felt. It's like, look, like, why do I have to go to this show? Like, everything that I know is there. And I think that was when, really my eyes opened up to what we were missing out on. And then once I started engaging, it was just the amount of information, the amount of data, the amount of guidance was just like, I was awed at how much support and how much I was leaving at the table. And it was good. I got in and learned 20 years into it, but it would have been greater if I did it earlier. But yeah, it was really amazing.
I love how you're always the next, if you didn't plant the tree yesterday, the next best time is right now or whatever. But
yeah,
when you're surrounded by potential mentors, potential advisors or counselors, people who have been there for a minute and can give you some, direction if you open yourself up to it. And then when you become that for somebody, are you mindful of that now in this kind of space? And I know that it's sort of new for you, but are you feeling like there's this, I'm going to give back what's been sort of given to me? And is that an area of comfort for you? Are you naturally kind of one of these people where it's like, let me teach you something, let me show you something, because we're in this together? Or how is that for you as a leader, and also just as a human being figuring this stuff out?
So I think, I don't think there's anything to learn from me. You can take an inventory of my mistakes and really just kind of say, okay, just avoid these things. But I don't think I don't go out to be a teacher, a mentor, or somebody say, hey, sit down and I'm going to tell you how to live life. I don't think that that's my role. And I don't think I'm at that level where I feel like I'd be comfortable, primarily because I never want to become a teacher. I always want to become a student. So the assumption is that when you're a teacher, a student is that you still have a lot to learn. And I think, we are just specks of sand in the universe. So I forever hope I think of myself as a student. But, speaking of that speck of, so I hope I am always a student and never a teacher. If somebody comes to me and asks, I will share my experiences with them, and then it is up to them to decide what to do with it. But I think, going back to the specks of sand in the universe, or maybe smaller, whatever analogy you want to use, I think one thing that I learned was through the 20 years and prior to really engaging with IPC, and then ultimately weaseling my way, or kind of finding my way into the steering committee. I learned, and we'll talk about what the steering committee does and how much value it adds to ourselves, and hopefully we can add value to the industry. But it sucks being alone. Like, it just really sucks. Like, that there's people out there who's done it before, and you don't know who to ask. You don't know if they will be open to you. They don't know if if these other people that you do reach out to can relate to you, because every business has its own challenges, that has a unique experience that can help you guide. So I think it sucks being alone, and now we're not alone. Like, we have a whole bunch of people, either we're in the same boat or we are on different boats, going across the same ocean. So it's really great to be with people like that.
Does this give you a different point of view on interfacing with whatever you would consider your air quotes, finger quotes, competition? So is there some sort of a kinship now, or we're competing on these things, but definitely not on these other things? We got to figure that out together. How has that kind of worked for you?
Yeah, I think that's one thing I learned is, like, even if we're competitors, like, I think everybody wants to see each other be successful. Mm-hmm. And I've learned that there is a lot of generosity amongst all the successful business owners and all the people who are in this committee, because we all know that we're going to go through similar things. We all really care. I think there's a lot of caring people in the steering committee and everybody that I've interfaced with. So yeah, I think there's a lot of just not competition, but co-opetition. And then, one thing that the industry reinforces is, like, there's an abundance of work. Like, electronics, nobody will say that the electronics industry will shrink until apocalypse. Like, it's always going to grow. And I feel like, everybody has this idea of abundance. Everybody has this idea of, let's share. And it's just been a great experience.
Talk to me a little bit about the steering committee. What are you steering? What are you all doing over there at the steering committee?
So I think there's different layers to it. The steering committee that we have is basically, the entire conference that we go to, which we call Apex, is a 5-day conference, maybe even more, maybe, just there's a lot of days to it. And one of the days, what we do is we actually get leadership for electronics manufacturing services, which we are, on a full day, meeting and then networking session afterwards. And basically what we do is we touch on all the relevant things for our industry coming up in the next year. So it may be data, it may be trends, it may be risks, it may be, government regulations. It could be new government what am I trying to say? Incentive programs, all these stuff that's out there, we kind of talk about, so we can just to bring awareness to everybody. And in that process, the idea is, even going through the decision-making process, the thing that I get to see is that, there's going to be a final roster or final agenda there. But before that, there's a lot of debating on what may not make the final agenda, and even to kind of see what we're talking about and not make that knowing that is still valuable as well. So, we go into different things, different topics. Is it valuable? Is it not valuable? Is this coming up? This is not coming up. This is going to be a risk. This is not going to be a risk. So, and across industries that we serve, we could talk about industrial automation. We can talk about aerospace. We could talk about military. We could talk about lighting. We could talk about white goods. So what are the different things that are going to be affecting these different industries? And we kind of get to look at it and make a decision on what is going to be the most relevant for the entire industry for this one day agenda. So it's really been, we get on calls, conference calls, talk to everybody, get everybody's input. And, we learned about resources that we never knew that were available. We learned about metrics that we never knew that were relevant. We learned about best practices that we never knew even needed to exist. So it's been really a great learning opportunity, kind of peek behind the curtain and to see the whole everything, and then be able to refine it into a one-day agenda for the actual conference.
And just as like going back to where we started, if you were to, this gives you the ability to kind of see what is the sort of current that's running underneath everything. What are others in my space thinking about? What do they feel is important? And if you were to just to somehow try to navigate that on your own, you'd be on Wikipedia for the next 4 weeks, just trying to hunt down what's going on or in forums or something like this. And then as you get other people's perspectives on these things, and as you said, is this one we should talk about today or not, or what, like that is so, even just here's what we think is important is really interesting to have that be kind of a hive mind, kind of a mentality that's industry wide rather than a whole bunch of people in different spaces, disparate silos, trying to figure out what they think is important. And I think you make a really good point about the learning value of that.
Yeah.
Jay Patel is at Amtech, buildamtech.com. IPC is at ipc.org. And Jay, this is interesting. And the next time you go, let's decompress when you come back, when it's all fresh in your head, and talk about how that went.
So one thing I wanted to share was, I don't know if anybody's ever going to hear this episode, or any of the guys part of the steering committee will ever hear this episodes, but just so it is on the record that I just want to say on behalf of Amtech and myself, we're really grateful for the people who have allowed us to be part of the steering committee and allowed us to participate. I think their feedback has been invaluable, and we are better for it. So, this is just a little token of gratitude that hopefully will stay in cyberspace for the rest of eternity somewhere. Maybe somebody will hear it.
That's awesome. There's no better way to close out an episode than with a little bit of gratitude. And I think we got to, hashtag and mention everybody we can so that this is on the radar. It's a good point.
Yep.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks for joining us. And a special thanks to our subscribers and followers. Consider becoming one today wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube.